You're listening to the Before You Market podcast. In a world of endless tactics and fleeting trends, we're here to show you why putting your brand first changes everything. Join us as we explore how a brand-first strategy can revolutionize your marketing. Get ready to rethink marketing. This is Before You Market.
Okay. The little ticker's going. I think everybody's happy. All right, let's do this thing. All right. Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Before You Market podcast, where we challenge you to, that's right, you guessed it, rethink marketing. To help us in this endeavor, we've invited some of the best marketers around in the business to enlighten you on your path to a brand-first awakening. That's what I'm going with. And it's going to happen. I'm going to manifest it into an existence. Aside from having a great name, Robert Rose is one of my go-to experts for anything related to content marketing. He and future Before You Market guest Joe Polizzi co-host the This Old Marketing podcast, which I highly recommend checking out. Anytime those two guys get together and talk, it's a good time. So I highly recommend checking that out. And his rose-colored glasses series on the Content Marketing Institute is a must-read. Always great insight. So Robert, please take a moment and introduce yourself to these wonderful people.
Well, you're so very kind. You did a pretty good job. I will say.
Okay.
Yeah, I have. I've spent the last now it just keeps going up. The number keeps going
Right.
up. 25 years now in marketing, and really have spent the bulk of my career helping organizations all over the planet sort of figure out how to use content and storytelling, and really the whole idea of delivering value through experiences digitally to drive a business result, whether that be new lead generation, whether that be brand building, whether that be loyalty, whether that be evangelizing and all the rest, and have ridden all of the different waves, from the .com wave to the mobile wave to the social wave, and now the AI wave. And so here we are, 4 books later, and all kinds of clients that we work with on a day-to-day basis, and just super happy to be here in 2024 and feeling a little better about the future, I have to say.
Yeah. I think good things are ahead.
Yeah, indeed.
That's where I'm sticking with it. So it's been a while since you and I have last spoke. I interviewed you once before, a few years back, and
right.
a lot has changed. Robots now rule us.
That's right.
And there's quite a few species of invasive insects that now call the U.S. home. So we might discuss the robots. I doubt we'll get into the insects thing, but we'll see where it goes. So anyway, you ready to do this?
Let's do it.
All right, awesome. So as I mentioned, Brand 3 is on a mission to bring about a brand first awakening, to really get organizations to take their brand more seriously, to think about their brand. And I wanted to ask you, as a content guy, from a content standpoint, how important is brand now these days with content marketing? And do you see it growing in importance in the future?
And I say this knowing where I sit, knowing the show that I'm on, and I promise this isn't a softball right back at you, but I think it may be the most important thing in marketing today. I
did not ask him to say that.
Yeah, it is. In a world where, one of the things that we often forget is that it's not just content that has been democratized and sort of information that has been democratized across the internet and everything else that we consume on a daily basis. It is also all of the other technologies, such as manufacturing, such as finance, such as the way that the globalization of everything. And so really, when it comes down to it, I mean, I go back to all of the ideas of really the only thing that differentiates us is the way that we can create an experience for a customer. And that is ultimately a trust in a reputation, which comes back to our brand. So ultimately, whether we call that the storyteller, whether we call that the brand, whether we call that the unique value, whether we call it, it is all based on our reputation, what it is, where and how we create trust with consumers. And so focus on that, especially in 2024, is critical. And it's interesting. I mean, there's some nuances that I'm sure we'll get into in terms of, well, how do you do that in 2024 versus how might you have done that in 1995 or something like that. But the key is that it's all about if we're known and what we're known for, and do consumers trust us today? Because trust is the thing that we are in short supply of in today's world.
It really couldn't have said it better myself. I think, especially with the robots taking over, I think trust is in short supply. And that word authenticity keeps coming up, but I think in one of your posts, you talked about what does it mean to be authentic? You can be authentically bad.
Right. Yeah. You can be an authentic asshole, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you can, it just means you're of undisputed origin. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
authenticity
it's really that,
without trust.
Yeah. It's that transparency, right? It's the, one of my friends and colleagues, he often says, you can't build trust. There's no such thing as building trust. The only way to be trustworthy is to be trustworthy, right? That's the only way you are trustworthy, is if you continually demonstrate your trustworthiness. And that's a thing that builds up over time and is easily destroyed. It's, one of the hardest things to demonstrate and one of the easiest things to lose. And so it is just about being better, right? It is being better, being more authentic, if you like that word, but truly being trustworthy.
Yeah. In a recent examination of which is more important, the post that I alluded to, you ask, is it the story or the storyteller? And you say the story creates the value and the trust, but if your audience doesn't believe in the storyteller, it's so much harder to make the story worth telling. So
exactly.
What would you say to a company, just starting out on a new content campaign? What should they consider when trying to build the trust of the storytellers themselves?
Yeah, there's a couple of things that are important, because in one of the biggest challenges in today's world is that it's a double-edged sword, right? It's easier than ever to launch a new company, to get out into the marketplace, to be loud, to demonstrate that through content, because it's all democratized. We have just as much power and ability to distribute content as any other large company out there. But the point is that there's so much noise that if you're new, it's incredibly difficult to establish some kind of reputation right away. And so the real focus for any new brand or any new product that's out there trying to establish themselves is to build that differentiated value from step one, right? So, read into that maybe content marketing, but even broader than that, it's about a brand story that you're telling that is truly valuable and truly differentiated, to the point where your whole focus is just, I'm going to be valuable to you. I'm good, because you can get attention, right? You can garner attention, but if you don't do something with that attention, which is so precious these days, then it doesn't matter, right? So it's no longer good enough to just be provocative or do weird things or do stunts that don't build value, because ultimately you have to start building a foundation from the very, very beginning.
Even the guys from Jackass are building some sort of trust that
of course,
that they're going to entertain you and you're going to have a good time watching them, even though they're
exactly right. That's that brand alignment that's so important, right?
Right, exactly. So now you talked about the brand voice, which we preach it here. It matters a great deal, but what about the voice of the individual writer? Should brands allow that person's voice to come through, allow some individuality, even if it may be somewhat not necessarily on brand?
The answer to that is it depends. Like so many
Right.
times, it depends on what your brand is, right? The Jackasses are great, on one side of that spectrum versus something like a Disney on the other side of the spectrum, right?
That's
So
that's a broad spectrum.
the controls that you're putting in, the walls of the garden, if you will, that you're building, are going to be, as high as you need to make them, depending on the brand value that you want to create with your public.
Mm,
But having said that, yes, and in fact, it is about bringing forward the different points of view within that, the different voices within your organization that really gives you the strength. It gives you that broad portfolio of diversity that you're looking for, right? So
mhm.
the way, and they're all telling us, hopefully, they're all telling the same or similar. And again, the walls of your garden may be higher or lower. They're telling the same or similar story, but they're doing through their voice, through their lens, right? And that includes all of the classic looks at diversity, but it also looks at things like regions. It looks at things like,
Right.
the different audience perspectives that you have. It looks through the lens of different everything you experience, the experience with your product versus inexperience with your product. So all those different lenses are truly valuable to telling a more the way I think about it is, you've got a great television series that lasts 14, 15, 20 years, and think about all the different writers and directors and actors that
Yeah.
they've brought in to tell that story. You'd know a classic story with that classic series if you saw it. But if you pay attention, you can see that they're telling the same story in very diverse ways.
Even a series like Star Wars,
Sure.
for better or for worse, there's
For better or
some,
for worse, right?
yeah,
Exactly right. Yeah,
sometimes it doesn't hit and sometimes it's amazing. And
that's right.
and then sometimes it hits for some and not for others. But I think, yeah, I agree. I think brands need to take that chance, and they need to, um, you talk about trust, they need to trust their team. The people writing, they need to trust them enough to let them be themselves and let a little bit of that personality shine through. I think brands can get a little too kind of tight gripped on tone and messaging that they may miss some magical moments.
Absolutely, right. And that's a really important point. Those magical moments, right, where you bring out by accident or on purpose
Hmm.
someone who has a very diverse voice, and ultimately brings something forward that you never knew was possible before. And it can help take the brand in a new direction, and it can help, or it may fall flat on its face, right? One of
Sure.
one of the two. But the point is that, yeah, if you're constantly satisfied with staying status quo, right, keep those controls, keep those things are. But if you want to grow, or if you want to evolve into becoming relevant for the modern,
Mm.
audiences, whatever they may be, letting those diverse, in so many ways, letting those freak flag flies,
Yeah.
can help you evolve into and become and continue to stay relevant. You think of brands that have been able to do that, Nike and Apple, and they have changed their messaging, subtly and importantly, slowly, but you can see how they've evolved over time to stay current with where the modern sort of zeitgeist is.
Yeah, I would say that I'm a total freak. I don't have any piercings. My hair is its natural color. I have no tattoos.
Yeah.
Okay. AI. There,
Yeah.
I
Oh,
said it.
okay. All right.
Here we go. All
Here we
right.
go.
So I just want your take on AI and content creation. When is it okay? When is it not okay? And what do you see as the future? It's not going away.
No.
So what do you see as the future of AI and content?
Well, what I'm struck by is so I just got back from MACON, which is the marketing AI conference. I mean,
Mhm.
literally just happened last week. And I was struck by how many of and I'll say rock and roll quote thought leaders, right? But they are thought leaders. I don't mean to,
Sure.
I'm not deprecating them. What I'm suggesting is that it's hard to be a thought leader in something that's literally 2 years old. And
Right.
so
It's constantly changing.
and constantly changing.
Yeah.
So the interesting thing to me, however, was even the people who are interviewing and talking to the people who are actually making it happen, right? So there was two two guys, that are writing a book called Our AI Journey, right? They're writing it for Harvard Business Review, and they interview Sam Altman and Bill Gates and Reid Hoffman, and with to each one of them, all of those people, all of those sort of giants in our industry are all going, I don't know. We're making this up as we go, right?
Yeah.
And so I think in so many ways, that's where we are right now with AI, whether it's in business, marketing, content creation, artistry, any kind of content creation sort of idea. We're all in I don't know, we're sort of feeling our way through this, right? It's very similar to the way we were in 1999 and 2000 with this new thing called the internet. We didn't know. We were just sort of feeling our way and seeing what worked and seeing what didn't work. And so ultimately, so if you say, take a snapshot of today, where I think we are is in a place where I look at content creation as so to be clear, I don't believe creativity is a problem that needs to be solved. And I think this is largely where you look at the OpenAIs of the world and the Anthropics and the Claudes and Google and all of that. And the problem that they're sort of focused on right now is creativity. In other words, they're saying, the CTO of OpenAI was basically quoted as saying, look, we can replace all these creative jobs. And if you've got these creative jobs that can be replaced, they probably were in the wrong seats in the building to begin with, which is like just an awful thing to say, right? Because it assumes that creativity and human creativity is a problem that needs to be solved. However, there are ways to open up the idea of human creativity by offloading some of the things that AI is really good at. What is AI really good at today? Pattern recognition, right? So things that are highly structured and have patterns to them, computer code, abstracts, outlines, summaries, all of those kinds of derivative idea generation. Like we have a wonderful idea, we're expressing that idea in our originality, and then we need to create derivative content that lives around it. That to me is the most valuable part of content creation and generative AI.
That's a great point. Right? Yeah.
And so otherwise, I'm looking at my own, ability to offload those things so that I can focus on creating better ideas to be expressed, which goes back to our original point around brand and storytelling, which is, what AI isn't good at right now is storytelling. It's just not a good storyteller, right? If you ask it, and I have, tell me a story, right? Tell me the story of Star Wars, for example. It'll give you wonderfully detailed plot, right? It'll tell you what happened, right? But there's no story there. There's no sense of a young farm boy trying to learn his way in the world and trying to figure out what this bigger force within him is. There's none of that. It's just like, they go off and they fight some stuff, and then they fight this other thing, and the robots actually take over the thing, and then and that's what AI is really good at, is plot, not story.
Was Luke Skywalker, wasn't he a moisture farmer?
He was indeed a moisture farmer. Yes.
What a weird.
It's a very weird job.
George Lucas pitching it. All right, so little farm boy. Well, what's he farming? Moisture,
water. Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
That always cracked me up. Anyway, so I always ask my team to give me some questions to ask the guests, and Sarah Pattisall is one of our brand strategists, and she always comes through. So once again, here is a question from Sarah Pattisall.
All right.
And she asks, in your book, Experiences, the seventh era of marketing.
Going old school. All right.
Going old school.
That. Yeah.
You emphasize the shift from traditional advertising to creating valuable experiences, which we've talked about. Yeah. As we move further into this era, how do you envision content marketing evolving to create more immersive and interactive experiences?
Yeah, what a great question.
She always brings it.
Yeah, it's a fantastic question, and I think we can start to see, even in the efforts that are going on today, we're in a weird moment right now where the social media, basically external, we have built up these walled gardens, right, of places where experiences are happening. And coming back to AI for just a second, AI is infiltrating all of it, right? To develop more and more filtered for you experiences that ultimately keep us attached to those walled gardens, right? So whether it's Facebook's algorithm, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, Google, Meta, Amazon, Netflix, all of these sort of giant, 10 or 15 places where we are spending our time consuming media. And so there's a real need to create experiences there, right?
Right.
So everything from hardcore B2B, think hardcore B2B for a second. So for example, my friends at Red Hat Linux, they're creating entire educational experiences on Amazon Web Services. You never need to go to their website. You never need to go to the Red Hat website to experience Red Hat, to learn about Red Hat, to learn about the technical aspects of it, have an amazing educational experience, and then even acquire it through Amazon Web Services. You may never visit their website. So there's a real need to put out, and the same goes for creating experiences on Amazon's retail media network or on Walmart or in Target and some B2C, right? Sponsoring documentaries, sponsoring the kinds of films that we see where product placement within these films on these streaming networks are going to become the new long form types of advertising. I mean, Chick-fil-A just announced a streaming network, for crying out loud. So those kinds of things are happening right now. And it's a weird sort of distributed experience idea. I do believe we're going to see the pendulum come back a little bit with owned media experiences being differentiated in a way that help us keep the people, keep those audiences once we start to have them as customers. So you're seeing lots of things like educational enablement experiences. This is especially true in tech B2B. You're starting to see loyalty communities build up in brands. You're starting to see brands build things like entertainment networks or magazines or those kinds of things, but they're more focused on that deeper levels of loyalty and evangelism. So I see a shift happening right now, but right now it's really at the upper ends of the awareness funnel. We have to focus, and it's disappointing, and I hate it, but it's true. We've got to build those experiences on other people's properties just because that's where our consumers are consuming them.
But when we do that, we have a much better shot of eventually pulling them in.
That's right.
Those own,
that's right.
Entities. So yeah,
that's right. Yeah. So as much as I would love the free and open internet of the late 90s and early 2000s to reign free and be able to compete with those kinds of things, it's not, the trend isn't in that direction. The trend is, we basically open up 4 different elements of whatever platforms we belong in, and we never go anywhere else because we can get all the value we need out of those things.
I think we all knew back in the 90s, the late 90s, early 2000s, that it was a glorious time, and it was not going to last.
Yeah. I mean, it used to be, we used to talk about the idea of 500 Bruce Springsteen song, right? 500 channels and nothing on, right?
Yeah.
And the idea of being able to go to so many places on the internet, right? We used to see the internet as a place, right? Where we would go and we could explore and we could surf the internet and go to all these different experiences and experience them, right? And now, it's basically aggregated down to the 10 or 15 places that are most popular, and everything else sort of builds through that. They become the filter by which we sort of look at the entire internet. Is, for some people, Facebook is the internet. That is what and it's a sad but true thing.
Yeah. That's craziness. I know exactly what you're talking about, and it's kind of nuts. Yeah. But yeah. Well, Robert, thank you so much for doing this. A lot of insight here. I think hopefully we've gotten further along the path of achieving a brand first awakening. And also I did want to clarify. You had said that no one knew what the future held in the late 90s with the internet. I would argue that Steve Bezos knew, because he was from the future.
There you go. Yeah. I mean, if you look at pictures of Jeff when he was in 1996, when he was that scrawny little guy, and now he's like a cyborg. With, he's got the cool shades on. He's got some rocking sort of biceps, and
he's jacked.
He's
Hilarious.
He's turned into something completely different. But the funny thing is, when he laughs, he's still got that goofy laugh. So.
Right. Yeah. You can't take the nerd out of Jeff. It's still there. So, all right. Well, thank you again, my friend. And it's always a pleasure to talk to you. And everyone out there, stay safe and remember to vote and all of that good stuff. So thanks all. Bye.
Thanks for listening to Before You Market. Want more insights on revolutionizing your marketing strategy? Visit beforeyoumarket.com for all our episodes, exclusive content, and the Before You Market book. Remember, great marketing starts with a strong brand. We'll see you next time on Before You Market.